This is Jay from DBA in a Box. Today we're here doing our Business Basics series. This is part 2 of insulating yourself from personal risk. So last week we talked about what would happen if something went horribly wrong. Say for example you sent some vitamins to somebody or some supplements to somebody and they were bad. And that person would then want to sue you, the manufacturer, and everybody along the line. They would name everybody. What you don't want to do is have yourself personally at risk. You want something in between you and them that will help you to avoid losing your house, losing your car, losing everything you own. We don't want to do that. In today's society, let me be really clear about this. People will sue you at the drop of a hat, and we do not want that to happen to you. So, before we start, if you are interested in what I'm about to say, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, or just watch it, and when we get to the end, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Don't forget to click the notification bell, and with that, we're off. Personal risk. If you didn't watch the video last week, part 1, you should go watch it now, and I'm going to put it in there. Watch it before you watch this one, because you have to do that before you can do this. And what this is, what I'm talking about today, is insurance. Nasty word, everybody hates it. We hate the necessity of buying it. However, there are some interesting things about insurance when you're a company. So first of all, let's talk about the 2 types of insurance that you really need. The first one is general liability insurance. General liability is kind of the catch-all. It will cover you for things like you sent a skateboard out, the wheel fell off, somebody broke their leg, now their parents are suing you because you hurt their baby boy or girl. General liability, that's what it's for. It's for anything. It's for general liabilities. However, when you're getting a general liability policy, make sure you read exactly what it covers. Most general liability is set up as a very basic catch-all, and then you add what's called a rider, which is an extra piece to the policy to cover specific cases. For example, if you're selling health and beauty and you have just the basic general liability, the odds are it's not going to cover that person that got sick from the supplements. So what you need to do is make sure you read the policy, get with a licensed agent, and I'm not a licensed agent. I used to be licensed for life and health insurance in the state of Florida. That doesn't apply to what we're talking about today. This falls under the umbrella of property casualty insurance. So property casualty insurance is actually all kinds of property and all kinds of casualty. It's the umbrella that includes your car insurance, your mortgage insurance, all of that falls under property casualty. When we talk about it in the context of a business insurance, general liability is some mishap happens that could not have been foreseen. That general liability insurance kicks in and it pays the claim. And we're going to talk about claims. Claims are one instance where a person is trying to sue. The second kind of insurance is called errors and omissions insurance. Errors and omissions insurance covers you when you make a claim while trying to sell a product and that claim is not strictly true. We're not saying that you would deliberately lie to somebody. We're not saying that you would go out there and try to sell something under less than perfect integrity. What we are saying is that when you talk to a customer, if they don't hear what you said, and we know that happens constantly, if they don't hear what you actually said or they misinterpret it, you can get into a litigious situation, especially when you're doing things like FBA where Amazon is your customer. You make a claim to Amazon, Amazon says this isn't true, Amazon sues you, you're in trouble. What errors and omissions insurance does is it stands between you and Amazon and says, hey, if it was a mistake, if it was a mistaken claim, then Amazon is not suing you on the basis of a product problem. They're suing you on the basis of an information problem. And so errors in insurance or errors in omissions insurance covers those types of situations. Let's talk about the three parts of the insurance that you should absolutely know. As I said before, you have to know what's in your policy. You have to know what's covered, and if there's something that you're doing that's not covered, you need to get it covered, and they do that through the process of adding a rider. And a rider does not necessarily have to be purchased at the time you buy the base policy. So you buy the policy and then you decide, hey, I'm going to go get this pallet of protein powder that is now available. I've got a great deal on it. I'm going to get that. Well, your policy may not cover that. You call the insurance company and say, hey, or actually you call your agent and you say, hey, I am getting ready to do this. I need to add something to protect myself in case the product's bad. The insurance company will immediately give you a quote for the additional premium. You pay the additional premium and you're done. Okay, talking about premiums. Before we go too far down the road here, I do want to say that business insurance premiums are not that expensive. So in another company that I had, now we were a service-based company, not a product-based company. So we weren't selling products, we were selling consulting services. In that company, I had a $2 million general liability policy. What that meant was that a person suing me, the insurance company was responsible for $1 million, up to $1 million as a result of the outcome of the lawsuit. And if you added up all of the claims throughout a single year, they could add up to a total of $2 million before the insurance company said, okay, enough, we're not paying anymore. That policy cost me $1,300 a year, $1,300 a year. So in the grand scheme of things, $1,100 a month, $110 a month protected me from up to $2 million of liability. Now, I'm not saying that that's what your premium is going to be. It's very specific to the business that you're in, to your personal credit, to your business, how long your business has been in business. And I'm also not telling you need $2 million. In fact, we had to apply specially to get $2 million because the company we were with only did $1 million policies. So they had to actually extend it to double what they would normally sell for us, and we had to apply in a special way for that. What I am telling you is that you need some of this insurance in between you. And let me tell you why that's important, and then we'll go back over to those three things I was talking about. Let me tell you why the insurance is important. So if you don't have insurance and you have a corporate entity, you went ahead and you followed my advice in part one, you talked to your attorney, you talked to your CPA, you went and you bought insurance. Or I'm sorry, you went and you incorporated. You created a corporation and you insulated yourself. Something went wrong and that person is now suing your company and you personally. Not uncommon for that to happen. What they don't want to do is have you just declare the company bankrupt and step out of the way and they never recover anything. It's not always a successful tactic, but they usually do it. They will usually name both you and you personally and the company in these lawsuits. However, if you have an insurance policy, they don't sue the company and you, they sue the insurance company. Okay, and then the insurance company, their attorneys handle the process of negotiating a settlement or going to court or whatever has to be done. Depending on how bad it is, you may not even have to go to court. You may just let the insurance company do everything, and they call you up and say, hey, we settled for this, and you go, okay, thanks, appreciate it, bye, and you get back to business. Sometimes that works that way, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the severity of what happened. Obviously, if somebody died as a result of something that they think they can prove negligence on you for, they're not going to let it go at a settlement, and they're going to sue you. Now, here's the second part of this, is that when you're sued and a settlement is reached, you pay the deductible, and we'll talk about that. You pay the deductible, the insurance company pays the rest up to your limit, up to your per claim and your annual limits, and then your company is responsible for anything above that. Just because your insurance company has a limit, say you had a similar policy to mine, you had a $2 million annual limit, you hit your $2 million annual limit plus another $500,000, so $2,500,000 in lost lawsuits during the year, your company would be responsible for that $500,000. Okay. That's where the corporation comes in again, because then you can declare bankruptcy with your corporation, and that debt goes away along with your credit, unfortunately, but better that your credit goes away than all your money and all your stuff. So, short version, rather than suing you or your company, if you have an insurance policy, the people that are suing are going to sue your policy. They're going to sue your insurance company. Okay? Now, think about that for a minute, how that insulates you even further. So, company sues your insurance company. Let's say you have a small policy, $100,000 a year, okay? You're paying $50 a month for this thing. It's a $100,000 a year limit, or a $100,000 per claim limit. The people sue your insurance company for $100,000. Somebody slipped and broke their leg, they sue for $100,000. The insurance company negotiates it down to a $60,000 settlement. The insurance company pays the first $50,000 of that, minus whatever your deductible is. Okay, so they pay the first $50,000, leaving you with a $10,000 responsibility for that lawsuit. Now, if you think about that, I would much rather owe $10,000 to somebody than $60,000. It's pretty straightforward in my mind. And if I'm paying $50 a month to insure myself, or even $100 a month to ensure that is what's going to happen, that to me is very inexpensive. That is a cheap way to mitigate risk. Now, you do want to make sure you have enough insurance that it's worthwhile. If you get a $10,000 policy, guess what? You still would owe the $50,000. You really didn't do anything except give the insurance company a little bit of money and hope that they would negotiate a good deal for you. All right, so, and by the way, on the other end, you can negotiate with the insurance company on the settlement too, and sometimes they'll stretch a little, but usually not. Short version, if you have a corporation and that corporation has insurance, then you have 2 layers of insulation, and you've shifted the party that's going to be sued from your company to the insurance company. And the insurance company has attorneys to deal with this stuff. They will probably settle. It doesn't matter. You'll have to pay the deductible, and that's it. So let's talk about that deductible. That is one of the 3 things you need to know. You need to know your deductible, just like with car deductible and your health insurance deductible. A deductible is what you pay before your insurance company starts paying. So what we're trying to protect against is catastrophic loss. We're not trying to protect against every little thing that happens. If somebody asks us for a $250 return, we don't want our insurance company paying that. They're just going to jack our rates up, and at the end of the day, it's not beneficial to us. What we're looking to protect against is a catastrophic lawsuit, the catastrophic hit. And what I mean by that is you have to think to yourself, if everything went wrong, what could I pay out of pocket before I even had to involve the insurance company? You have to think about how much money you have and what your savings are, and of course it would hit your cash flow. So this is typically something you account for in your reserves. You don't spend this money, you just keep it off to the side just in case. For me, I have a number that I had. I have a number that I have right now. I will tell you that in my old company, my limit was my deductible was $10,000. I said, you know what? Anything $10,000 or less, I'm just going to deal with it myself. If it's over $10,000, then we'll get the insurance company involved. And again, I had those really high limits too. So I effectively first $10,000 was on me. Somebody sued me, first $10,000 out of my pocket. But you know what? That kept my premiums down. It kept my premiums in a comfortable place. And honestly, if it's important enough to sue you, very rarely will it be less than $10,000. If it's important enough to this person to hire attorneys and to come after you, $10,000 is not that much money. They are probably going to ask for more. So anyhow, no matter what the settlement is, if it's a $20,000 settlement, the $10,000 is still mine, the first $10,000. So if it's an $11,000 settlement, the first $10,000 is mine, the $1,000 goes against the insurance company. So deductibles, you need to understand what they are, and you need to know what the right number is for you. You need to know what your limit is. If I had to pay out of pocket, what's my limit? The second thing you have to know, you have to have a good feeling for what your exposure is. If I get sued, it will probably be $0 to $50,000. It'll be $50 to $100,000. It'll be $100 to $250,000. It'll be more than $250,000. You need to know that number. You need to think about that and say, what's my exposure? What's the worst case that could happen? And then you need to insure yourself against that. What you don't want to do is overbuy insurance. If you have too much insurance, if I had a $2 million policy on general liability on what we're doing right now, that would be just silly. We're in the very beginning stages of a company. I don't have a realistic expectation of doing $1 million deal with any customer in the next 6 months. Now, hopefully it happens. If it does, I'll raise my insurance. However, if you don't, you need to think about what's the biggest sale I made, and then you say, what's the worst that could happen if that sale had gone wrong? We don't really want to think about the outliers. We never want to think about what happens if we accidentally kill somebody through negligence. That's a bad thing. I don't think any of us are ever going to want to put ourselves in a position where it's life and death like that. That's typically reserved for things like automobiles and things of that nature. So unless you have employees who are potentially slip and fall victims, or heavy stuff can fall and crush them, unless you're in that kind of situation, you probably don't need those big insurance numbers. Workers' comp's going to cover part of that anyhow, so you don't really need to worry about that. What you need to worry about is, what is my exposure if a customer wanted to sue me? And typically, $100,000, $200,000 is plenty of insurance, and that's not very expensive. Get with your insurance agent, find out what it costs to get those limits. Understand the limits, understand your exposure, and that's what you want to buy. If you were to buy that $2 million policy and say, hey, you know what, that's cheap, I'm just going to go ahead and get that, what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for somebody who may not have sued you before to have their attorney go, hey, by the way, they got $2 million in insurance. Let's sue them for $10 million and see if we can get $1 million or $2 out of them. So you don't want to overbuy your insurance. You want to get the appropriate one. Talk to your attorney, talk to your insurance agent, talk to your CPA. Make sure you buy the appropriate amount of insurance to cover what you're doing. Okay, and number 3 is your limits. Make sure you understand your limits. What's my per claim limit? What's my annual limit? What's your stop loss? Understand those numbers, because that's what you're really insuring. Anything beyond that's going to be on you. So make sure you understand those limits. Finally, the last thing that you want to make sure you know is, as I said, you want to know what's covered and what's not. You need to know that. You have to know that. If you don't understand it, ask again. Keep asking until you understand the ins and outs of what's covered, what's not covered. All right, so now let's think about this in terms of that layered protection against losing your personal assets. So here comes that lawsuit. You're exposed for your deductible. You've got insurance, so they're suing the insurance company. You've got $100,000. Let's say you've got a tiny policy. You got a $50,000 general liability policy, and typically it's hard to find ones that are that small. Let's say you've got a $50,000 general liability and $50,000 E&O for a total of $100,000 in coverage annually. Something goes wrong. You get somebody really, really sick. They almost, to be less morbid, they almost die, but then they come back. They sue you for $1 million. What's going to happen? Well, first thing that's going to happen is your insurance company is the first one that's going to be on the front lines of getting sued, and they're going to try to settle immediately. And they have to discuss this with you because part of it's a small part's their responsibility and a big part's your responsibility. So the insurance company, their attorneys are going to team up with yours. If you're sued for that much money, you want your own representation at the table. So your attorney, the insurance company's attorneys will get together, they'll strategize, they'll talk to the attorney for the other party, and they'll go through that process. Now, once a settlement's reached, or once a verdict with an award is reached, then what's going to happen is the insurance company is going to pay that first $50,000, and now you're left, let's say you're left with $500,000 a year supposed to pay, and you don't have it. What do? You declare bankruptcy with your company. The debt's not yours personally, it's your company's. By creating the corporate structure and by buying insurance, you have added those two layers and you've set yourself up in a way that, yes, your credit will probably get crushed by filing bankruptcy with your company and closing the doors. However, it's still better than them garnishing your wages until $500,000 is paid off. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an insurance agent. I've never been licensed in property and casualty. I'm here to tell you, talk to those three. Talk to your attorney, your CPA, your insurance agent. Get the right insurance coverage for you. Insulate yourself from personal risk. And keep yourself in a position to be personally solvent in the case that your company has to declare bankruptcy and go away. If you do this, you will be much happier. You'll have peace of mind. You won't have to worry about it. It's an entire family of risk that you just took off the table and said, I don't even have to think about this 99.9% of the time, and if something really bad happens, I'll deal with it then. It will keep you less stressed out. Corporate structure, buy insurance. General liability and errors and omissions, buy them both. It's not expensive. Talk to your agent to find out the premiums for you and your particular situation. And with that, you will be 80% of the way to completely protected, if not more. Those two things together will make a huge difference. And with that, I'm going to let you go. I'm Jay from DBA in a Box. If you liked what you heard, if you have questions, by all means, ask them down in the comments. I'm happy to answer whatever questions you have. Again, from my experience, I'm not an attorney, a CPA, or an insurance agent, but I do have a lot of experience in business, and I will answer the best that I can, or I'll refer you to those three. With that, I will say, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, and have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.